Good evening and welcome to today's webinar on what every HR professional should know. And the objective of this Oman PDPL in practice webinar 2 is to understand more about PDPL, which is more related to HR, because HR is the main function in any organization which collect more data when it's come to personal or sensitive data. So we would like to take you through some high level violation, which is more related to HR PDPL. In addition, we will take you through what are the best practice, what need to be considered when it's come to PDPL law. And the agenda, we will start with our guest introduction, then we will move into the data privacy violation and regulatory fines, which is more tailored to HR processes. Then we will go into deep what HR professionals should know from the PDPL perspective, then key takeaway, and the last 50 minutes will be for question and answer. So I'm the host, myself Shah. I'm FIP, CIPP and CIPM certified. I have almost 20 years of experience. I am looking after regional data protection compliance. In addition, I'm looking after GRC advisory. We have two guests today with us, Mr. Mustafa Saeed Abu Hammam. He has almost 30 years of experience and he comes from the business background, so he has more deeper understanding about the business processes. So he will take us on HR processes from the technology and as well as a PDPL perspective. Sarib Khan, he is our second guest. He is by professional lawyer. In addition, he has almost, I would say, 6 or 7 years of experience in data privacy. He is working with one of the organization where he is taking care of global data privacy compliance. So I would like to hand over to Mustafa so that you can give some more brief about you and what is your agenda for today. Then we'll move to Sarib and then we'll focus on the violation before we jump into the detailed presentation by you.
Okay, thank you, Shah. My name is Mustafa. I'm working, let's say, for risk and compliance for the past 8 years. And very recently, I'm working for one of the two biggest organizations in energy in Oman. So I'm leading the Omani Personal Data Protection Law Compliance Program. So we have started this, a year ago, and I would like to share my experience and my organization experience we had, especially in the HR side. Yes, back to you, Sarib. Yes, you can introduce yourself. And I think Sarib will start for the legal part. Yeah, please go ahead.
Well, thank you both. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm Sarib Khan. I'm working data privacy and AI governance space, and my role is essentially to create a bridge between privacy legal requirements and practical business solutions. So a lot of my work is around helping team understand not only what the law requires, but how those requirements can be applied in day-to-day practices with the real business solutions, whether it's related to privacy by design aspects or any sort of overall privacy objective or privacy compliance. So I'm happy to be here today. We're gonna discuss about privacy violations under PDPL, and then we'll jump onto the practical approach how the HR can take and to be compliant and make their practice as a business solution to achieve and make compliant in PDPL. So just a sec. That's about myself. Let me share my screen. Let me know if it's visible.
Yes, we can see.
Perfect. Yeah. So before we look at these international cases, you can see there on the screen. So let's first bring back to what Oman privacy law is basically about. So Oman PDPL is not just a privacy or a policy requirement. So under PDPL, the penalties are primarily covered in Chapter 7, Article between Article 25 to 32 and Article 44 of Executive Regulation, where it is specifically cover the administrative penalties. So as I mentioned, as I started with the point that Oman PDPL is not just a privacy policy requirement. It gives the ministry real enforcement power. The ministry can warn an organization and ask it to correct or erase personal data and suspend processing and impose administrative penalties. Separately, the law here also sets out court imposed fines depending upon the type of violation and how it happened. So, for example, as we are discussing the approach here mainly for HR teams, I would not look these penalties only as numbers. I would look at them as risk areas. So I'll constitute these risks into 3 or 4 categories. So I'll start with the first risk area is mainly transparency. If we collect employee data without properly informing them, for example, what data we collect, why we collect it, who will access it, and what rights they have. The fine can go up to 2000 OMR. In HR, this can happen during recruitment, onboarding, also your background checks, you call it payroll activities or any sort of benefits administration, and that too in employee monitoring. The second area, the most important area is governance. This includes things like not maintaining proper processing records, not cooperating with the ministry, not identifying a data protection officer wherever required. If there is a requirement to have a data protection officer in place, and if organization is not meeting those requirements, that may be a violation. Not following prescribed controls guided by the ministry. So these violations can go up to OMR 5000. In simple terms, if I were to recall it in a specific to HR, like what employee data we hold, where it is stored, who has access to it, how long do we keep it. So it's basically like you have to maintain a data mapping, and alongside with data mapping, they're supposed to be a retention schedules. The third area is privacy risk management. Or Oman PDPL expects organization to put control in place before processing personal data. If HR introduce, for example, a biometric attendance, or they may came up with a requirement of CCTV monitoring or any sort of productivity tracking tool, which might monitor employee monitoring or an AI recruitment tool. So the question is not only does the tool will help us. The question is also how we assist the privacy risk. Failure can attract the penalty, which may goes up to 10,000 OMR. So here it's going to be start if we want to minimize these efforts, we can start with a privacy risk assessment with a certain common questions, what exactly the requirement and what are the associated residual risk. When we answer those particular questions, and if we document this as per the requirements, we can basically make ourselves compliant. The fourth area, which is more serious, it's basically a data misuse. This includes mishandling sensitive information or sensitive data, or failing to notify a personal data breach, or failing to maintain confidentiality. Here in case of HR, this is very important because HR teams handle some of the most sensitive information in the organization. That too, mainly a potential PII or that, or sometimes a PHI as well, which can be your health records or sick leave documents or medical insurance data. Sometimes the medical insurance data also holds a dependent information as well. Then alongside the PHI, they may hold the financial data as well, which is your salary information, that and your identity documentation, sometimes your biometric data, ongoing disciplinary records or your performance records. So these violations can attract fines up to 20,000 OMR, mainly for the misuse and mishandling of data. The highest risk is cross-border transfer, which I would cover as the last. If personal data is transferred outside Oman, and it's not transferred in a compliant manner, is a violation of law. Where the transfer may harm individual, a data subject, that fine can go from OMR 1 lakh to 500,000. This is relevant for HR because many companies use global HR systems if they are a global entity and if they operate in multi-jurisdiction environment, and if they maintain any overseas payroll vendors or any they have separate regional HR teams, or they have shared service centers or cloud providers. So HR should always know where employee data is hosted, who can access it from the outside of the territory, that is Oman, and what safeguards are in place. So now, for example, here you can see about of like 5 cases which I have presented on the screen. Why are these global cases, I'll ask you a question, important for us? Mainly like not because Oman will copy every GDPR, because these are all GDPR specific enforcement cases. Not Oman will copy every GDPR enforcement cases exactly, but because these cases can show some exact HR behaviors that the PDPL is trying to prevent with this particular law as an enabler. So if we talk about this particular case one as Uber, in this particular Uber case, this is mainly a cross-border data transfer case. The issue was driver data are being moved internationally without proper safeguards. If we take this example as per the Oman principles, the lesson is pretty simple. Do not treat employee transfer casually if we if it goes to the global HR platform or any overseas payroll provider or a group company outside in Oman. So transfer should be reviewed properly and should be documented and should have a strict transfer mechanism or controls in place. The second case you can see is mainly related to breach response. The issue was not only that breach happened, but it was concealed and reported very late. For HR, the lesson here is that if the salary data or any identity documentation or any financial information or any medical records, you name it, any particular data handling done by the HR professionals are sent to wrong person. It should not be buried internally, like it has been happened and it just we just consider this as a data incident. So it should be properly escalated, accessed, contained, documented, and notified wherever required. So the proper investigation should be followed, and the root cause needs to be analysis. And on the basis of root cause, if there is a requirement to create a CAPA ticket, you need to create, and what lessons we have learned with this particular breach or the data incident, that point should also be noted. The third case is referring to H&M. That's mainly related to employee profiling. So H&M case is one of the clearest privacy lessons, I would say. Managers recorded very personal details about employees, including their health information, their family issues, or religious information. And this information was not was later used for employment decisions as well here in this particular case. So if I concur this particular example and referring it with the PDPL law, HR and manager should not record personal details just because they know them. If the information is not necessary for a lawful HR purpose, it should not be collected or even not stored in or within the system and within the environment. The fourth case, which you can see here for Amazon, okay, that's mainly for the surveillance. The Amazon case is about employee surveillance mainly. Monitoring may be allowed in certain situation, can be limited CCTV monitoring, but it must be proportionate and transparent. So if an organization uses CCTV, for example, or any tracking tools like tools for biometric attendance, any GPS tracking, device monitoring systems, uh, any productivity dashboards, or scanner-based tracking. Uh, HR should ask themselves whether have employees been informed, is the monitoring is necessary, who can see the data, and how long it is retained. For example, in case of Ireland, okay, they have a union, and they whenever you came up with any of the employment related activities, and you need to monitor or put certain guardrails for employee activity, that too for productivity as well. You need to obtain a consent from uh, Ireland Union as well. So these are the certain kind of I would say uh, particular cases which we talk about. And the last but not the least, that is Foodino or Glovo. Glovo case is about algorithmic HR decision. This is becoming more relevant because most of the HR teams globally use AI for CV screening or merely to pull out the best candidate, right? Or performance scoring, or mainly for promotion recommendation and workforce planning. And most of your tools which you maybe your organization is using as of today, for example, name it as Workday. Workday does have this particular functionality where we can leverage their AI functionality for a screening of screening of CVs. So the key point here is that AI cannot become a black box. HR should be able to explain what data is used, how decisions is made, whether the outcome is fair, and whether a human can review it. And the most important, are there any associated biasness or not? So here my message to every HR team member or the business owners, that PDPL compliance is not only about the legal documentation, it's about everyday HR decision making. So before we collect or use any employee data, you should do an exercise. You should follow a certain group of questions like before collecting any particular data set, do we really need this data? Have we clearly informed employees about this? Is the data which we are collecting, does that include any sensitive information? Is it going outside Oman? And could it unfairly affect the employee in any manner? If the HR or the business owner can answer these questions with a proper documentation in place, the organization is in much stronger position under PDPL law, and they can make themselves compliant, then they can make their process compliant as per the law. So here, that's about me. I'll uh, pause here, and I'll over to Shah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shalib. We really got very insight from the legal perspective. Now we would like to invite Mr. Mustafa to give us more deeper from the business side on HR. Mr. Mustafa.
Yeah, thank you, Shah, and thank you, Sarib. Actually, Sarib did not leave much for me, but I will try my best to cover those subjects that were not covered by Sarib. So I'll present my screen and start my presentation. Actually, I'll talk about some kind of detailed, process, for related to HR. So can you confirm that you can see my screen?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, so I'll skip those, let's say, areas which was, discussed by Sarib. So this, the privacy breaches by data category. So most of the data, you will notice that 55% of the data breaches are related to HR and employee data. So this, a concern in the globe. As said, misheld employee data can cascade consequences by irregular funds, including already trust. And this is, actually impact the company reputation. It's not some compliance. It will impact your organization on the market. So now we are talking about digital trust. Where people trust your organization and they feel that your data is secure. As a person with the organization, and this, let's say the market trend. People are looking for trusted company that protect their data, and this is regardless of let's say, of compliance or any penalties imposed by the law. Okay, so this is very brief. About the Oman PDPL. It was enforced by 1st of February, and as said by Sarib, the maximum let's say breach or the penalty is related to cross-border transfer. It's 500 Omani Riyal, and there are some, let's say, SLAs that we are committed as, let's say, data processor or data controller. Any organization that collect personal data, they are obliged to respond to data subject request, which is the personal data owner for request. And there are some kind of what we call data subject rights as per the law. So the data subject has many rights, and we have as an organization to respond to within 45 days. There is any breach either by data controller or data processor. It should be reported within 72 hours. Otherwise, penalties will be imposed. This, it was also mentioned by Sarib. Written consent is mandatory by the law. And if there is no legitimate interest, you have to take the consent. Unlike GDPR. DPO is, it should be appointment, and cross-border is, let's say, it's very strict, and there is high penalty imposed on that. These are, no need for mention. Sarib has mentioned many cases where, now it's serious. Data breach is imposing, let's say, penalties worldwide. So we have to take care of that. Also for those organizations working in different jurisdictions, different regions. Okay, so regarding the type of data we are maintaining about our employees, so we're talking about future hires where we, let's say, collect personal information about the candidates and do, let's say, assessment and until we hire them, and they will become our existing staff. Okay, and once they are existing staff, we have to process their payroll. They have, let's say, talent management. Progress, let's say, career path. All of these things. And the benefits related to employee. And and then during, the employee will retire and will become a past employee. And to be frank with you, the data we are maintaining about past employee. It's, a concern, and there should be, let's say, data retention policy clear. And for each type of personal data, you have, as per the law also, you have to have a clear data retention. So for each type of data, you have to maintain it for a certain period of time. And after that, you have what we call disposition of the data. You can either anonymize or pseudonymize or masking the data. So it's no more identifiable or referring to the person again. Okay. This is, as let's say, the consent requirement as per the law. It was also was touched base by Sarib. Okay. But I mean, there are some, let's say, strict requirements by the law. No predict boxes allowed. So it's not assumed that, I mean, so it has to be, let's say, explicit consent without enforcement. Okay. So you cannot enforce people to sign the consent, and consent is required to process personal data. Okay. Yeah. There is also a permit requirement as per the law. We have to get, I mean, as data processor or data controller who collects the personal data, you have to apply for a permit to process the sensitive data, which is mainly related to health, biometrics, all of these data, they are considered as sensitive data. I'll try my best, I mean, just to go very fast. Okay. So these are examples where, I mean, maybe you have to balance between protection and privacy. And for example, there are some tools, I mean, used by Microsoft. And such tools, I mean, you should inform the data subject that you might use his personal data to do some kind of, let's say, productivity analytics. For example, I mean, this is a productivity score privacy. It's using employee analytics to, let's say, to privacy concern for the removal individual data tracking. So this was, I mean, tool was used by, let's say, some organization, and it raised, I mean, privacy concern. And also, as mentioned by Sarib, biometric purpose violation, we are using biometric data for attendance, for example, or access log, and sometimes this data is used for analytics without consent of the data subject. Also, during, I mean, the COVID-19, there was remote working monitoring. So this should have been also consented by the data subjects. Also, there are some camera or CCTV which is used for certain security reasons. We cannot, as per the law, use them for other purposes unless this is consented by the data subjects. To the right, I mean, there are some, let's say, statistics related to violations. So we're talking about the height is this proportionate surveillance. I mean, the surveillance data was not used for the original purpose. Purpose limitation. So I'm collecting certain data for certain type of transactions or to serve the data subject. I mean, such data is used for other purpose without consent. Lack of transparency. Sometimes organization, for example, we have something called know your customer for, let's say, telecommunication companies. I mean, they're, for example, using geosite or geolocation information without consent, maybe. I mean, this should be also consented by the data subject. Biometrics use, I mean, as said, biometric data was mainly used for log monitoring, but it was not, maybe it was used for different purpose. This is another way where personal data is being used. We have called flights risk model, track mail pattern. So secretly, maybe the people team, they are tracking the emails and just predict who is leaving the organization, and this is a violation. Also, succession planning, I mean, analysis. If it's not consented, this is, I mean, should be a concern to the HCM team. Okay. Okay. So I'm talking about violate purpose limitation. Yes, they should take care of it. This is one of the data localization. So as per the law, if there is any data cross-border, called cross-border transfer of data, even if you are hosting, I mean, hosting, they are talking about hosting as if it is cross-border transfer. So as per the law, you should do some kind of risk assessment. You have to also coordinate with the CDC, Cyber Defense Center, to take that permit. And yes, I mean, there are some, let's say, forms to fill as part of, let's say, taking the permit to process or to do the cross-border transfer. And there is a form where you have to do the, let's say, risk assessment. And, you know, this is, I mean, the penalty is 500,000 and maximum if you don't take that permit or you fail to protect, let's say, personal data during cross-border transfer. Also, there are some cloud servers implications where, I mean, we are using the cloud, let's say, the public cloud. So we have to be careful hosting our personal data or on public cloud hosted outside Oman. So there is some restriction on data localization. If you don't have the local, let's say, option, you have to go. If you have to go to the public cloud, you have to go with the permits or the CDC permit, and also they do some kind of risk assessment. So this, I mean, more about let's say cross-border transfer. So we have to also transfer to countries with MCIT adequacy determination. You have to take, I mean, the permit from CDC and also do the risk assessment and provide it to the MCIT. There also should be some kind of, let's say, binding contractual clauses with the vendor. And also we should have some kind of what we call data processing agreement. If we are sharing some personal data with third party and they're doing something on behalf of our organization, we have to transfer the obligation of the PDPL to the processing party. And actually, data processor also, they are obliged by the law, for example, to report any data breach, personal data breach, within 72 hours. If that is not reported, both controller who collects the data and the processor who processes the data, they are obliged by the law. They will take the responsibility by the law. Okay. Also, I mean, as I said, I mean, for documentation, we should maintain what we call records of processing activities. I mean, this is required by the law for any personal data. Even if you don't transfer them outside Oman, you have to maintain what we call ROPA, or record of processing activities, where you define what kind of personal information you have. Is it consented? What I mean, transferred, how it's processed, who has access to that? You should maintain a log for that as per the law. Yes, I mean, we have also what we call self-service portal. I mean, and we should, I mean, third party should go up. It should have self-service portal where data subject has the right, or he can practice his data subject rights. For example, he can inquire about his personal data. He can ask for update for the personal data. Also, you can also ask to share the data with third parties. And also we have something called the right to be deleted or the right to be forgotten in certain cases under the law. So it's not all, let's say, request to for data deletion or to be forgotten can be entertained. We should have also ratio matrix between our vendor, especially HCM system providers, and our team. So to avoid any, let's say, conflict of interest or conflict of responsibility. Okay, there is one, let's say, one risk, which is, I mean, related to what we call business process outsourcing, where, for example, we are using LinkedIn to or any recruiting agency to announce for any vacancies we have. So there is some integration between our internal HCM systems and that recruitment agency, and we have to make sure that the data is protected, so let's say, and well secured for any interchange. Okay. And there is one requirement also, I mean, we might ask our vendor to provide, which is, I mean, independent risk quantification. We ask for, let's say, independent agency that can do the risk assessment related to data privacy. Okay. This, I mean, some, let's say, data breach notification as per the law. I mean, we have to report the any data breach within 72 hours to the ministry. And also, if there is any serious harm to the data subject, we have to inform the data subject of that data breach and what kind of risk he might be imposed to. And also, we have to maintain data breach records. I'm trying my best to take the time. Okay. As I said, I mean, at the end, there is some, let's say, fees, I mean, or let's say, notification fines, which is 500 to 2,000 for failure. And if there is any serious violation, it might reach to 15,000 to 20,000 Oman area. So this, I mean, the data range, I mean, how much is penalties? I mean, I think it's, well, I mean, touched base by Sarib. I mean, this is, I mean, the figures where violation as per the Personal Data Protection Law. And if you notice that, I mean, the highest penalty is imposed on unlawful cross-transfer, cross-border transfer. And actually, the data subject, as part of the consent taken by him, there should be clearly mentioned that we are, let's say, transferring the data, the personal data outside Oman. Should be part of the consent. Yeah. So as data controller very simply is the organization that collects the personal data from the data subject directly. Okay, I mean, they're using some tools, or they're collecting that, I mean, through manual forms or automated forms, or let's say like telecommunication, they're collecting, for example, device, geolocation, something called Know Your Customer. So all of these data, I mean, they are controllers. So they are obliged by the law as they are obliged to appoint a qualified PDPO, also to publish his or her contacts, and also, as I said, maintain processing records. Yes, and they are obliged to respond to the data subject rights responses. So as I said, I mean, if you look at the end, data subject rights responses, I mean, they have the request for access, correction, deletion, or data portability within 45 days. Okay, and if you look at the privacy notice requirement, so whenever you collect data, I mean, in addition to the consent originally taken by the data subject, you have also to publish something called data privacy notice. I mean, it is simply requires you to publish what kind of personal information you collect, for what purpose, clearly, and what kind of protection or data security measures you take to protect the personal data. This is, I mean, obliged by the law. Yeah, strategic recommendation. This is, I mean, for let's say general how to comply for personal data protection. So we'll do assessment. We'll go for data minimization. We should manage vendors and enforce transparency with the data subject and all people, or let's say parties involved in the personal data protection. Okay, I'll go fast. So this, I mean, recommended. I mean, it's not something which is standard, or it's something that is recommended for the organization. So we'll do some kind of, we want to implement the PDPL. So we have to go for assessment, design, implementation, and monitoring. And the assessment will start with what we call PII inventory or data mapping. And yeah, and we might also go for design. And we go for implementation. We should maintain record of processing activities, update privacy notice. These are just, I mean, general actions we do as part of the implementation for compliance program for personal data protection. Okay. And that's it from my side. Thank you for your time. Hopefully I was very quick, and yeah, I mean, it was informative.
Yeah.
So back to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mustafa. Yeah, we really got over insight, I would say. You touch upon each and every area which we were expecting. And yeah, since we have very short time, it's almost 10 minutes. So we can have open question and answer from the audience, so that we can help to clarify if someone has any doubt. Anyone would like to have any questions? Do you have any query which might be helpful for others?
I have one. I wanted to just understand kind of if I am compliant with the GDPR, so what are the changes that probably I need to make? Or because I have some like European touch also with my in my business.
Sarib, you want to take this question? Yes. Okay.
Yep. So basically, like if you are to answer your question, like if you are being compliant with GDPR or other privacy regulations. So first of all, GDPR is specifically the lawful. I would say GDPR compliance gave a strong base, okay, but it is not enough itself under Oman PDPL. Oman has certain specific requirements that is mainly around consent or sensitive data permits, cross-border transfer, then DPO records, then the 45 days right response, though in GDPR it is 30 days too. Then they have their notification requirement, but the major difference is mainly about the lawfulness, and it's mainly around the consent and data perfects. And another aspect is around the cross-border data handling and how you maintaining those cross-border with the transfer mechanisms shared by Mustafa sir. So the deck also highlighted these particular PDPL specific HR points. So that's mainly, I would say, to cover this.
And the
Yeah,
requirements like
if I
the
can ask a question, please. Hello.
Rahul, please go ahead. I mean, I think Rahul, you are speaking, and
I was asking like the record keeping and all is similar than like GDPR or how it goes? The record of
okay,
processing.
Rahul. Yes. For clarity, I think your organization is, I mean, let's say, operating in different jurisdictions. That's right. This is for understanding.
No, I have one office in Europe and one in Oman. That's what I.
So so you're working. I mean, you have an office in Oman. As per the Omani personal data protection law, I mean, it's almost similar to GDPR. If, there are some minor differences. So if you are compliant with GDPR, I mean, you have to work on such certain differences, just minor differences. You are compliant with the Omani PDPL. So
Thank
you have to comply with the jurisdiction. I mean, if you are operating in Oman, you have to comply with the Omani PDPL.
Thank you.
I'll just add it here. The major changes is going to be more of an artificial changes that to in the functional documentation, your privacy policies, and your data protection approach. And mainly around, if we be specific about this topic, mainly on the HR part, the consent is key. Okay, but I would not say that you should cover everything into this broader consent category. For that, it's supposed to be determined on the basis of different segments. For example, payroll is different, your benefits are different, your background checks is different. So it should be mapped and take a consent for a specific manner for each and a specific requirement, and that should be recorded on and off basis. So you need to maintain your ROPA and everything as per the requirements.
We have one question in the chat also. For the DPO, what qualifications are expected in Oman?
Musa sir, you want to take it?
Yeah, I'm sharing my experience actually. So we have two types of certification actually. One is provided by Asaka, which is, I mean, Certified Data Protection Solution Engineer. It's more of a technical part, and I think there is some other qualification. Sarib can give more details. To be frank with you, I'm not. I'm Certified Data Privacy Solution Engineer, so I'm in the technical part. But there is also another part, which is, I think, DPO certification. But I mean, for DPO, I mean, as discussed with Sarah before this, I mean, there should be the DPO should have a mix of both, huh? So technical and legal. And Sarah, you may give more details about it.
Yeah. So practically, the DPO should be someone who understands the law, the organization, data processing activities, and that too, along with the organization data process, they should have a deeper understanding about the overall business. If it is a SaaS company, they should have a great understanding about their products as well and their in and outs, like where exactly they need an understanding of the data architecture as well, and can work with HR, legal, IT, security, and that too with vendors. So I would say we can call this person as a dynamic person who have a dynamic role. So my practical view here is appointing a DPO is not only a compliance requirement. Okay, the real value is making sure the DPO is actually embedded into the decision making process. Okay, before the risk become incident, and they should proactively handle those incident or do their efforts and job.
We have one more question in the chat. What are good resources to understand better about Oman PDPL specifically?
I just wanted to jump in for DPO qualification. So precisely, I would like to answer to Mohammad Najib that PDPL is something new in Oman. It is very light version of the GDPR, and in the DPO role and responsibility, it is very light. I mean, the person should understand or have basic understanding about the technology, about the law. There's no specific qualification that the person should be master, should be certified in privacy certificate like Mr. Mustafa has mentioned about ISACA. There is a IAPP organization. They have CIPM, they have CIPP. But Oman, they just come up with basic understanding, and they want to have someone who has only basic understanding. They can be a DPO. And second one, what are the good resources? So I would recommend to stick with MTCIT, the law as well as executive regulation. They have defined each and every requirement in very simple way. We just need to go through it. And first step for any organization, they need to go through the rules. They need to go through the executive regulatory requirement and do the gap assessment. So by doing the gap assessment, they would be in a better position to understand what are the gaps they have. Accordingly, they can create the roadmap so that they can able to close the requirement. There are certain gaps that can be closed immediately. There's certain thing for that they need to have budget, which will go to the management in order to meet the requirement. Anyone, Sharib, you would like to add for resources?
I basically like totally agree with you. We should rely on the regulators, what they have quoted, and regularly check their regulatory amendments and whatever the notification they have released, and followed by the gap assessment. And also just to add here, if you want to start when you exercise, you're doing a gap assessment exercise. If you are PIM certified, if your organization is PIM certified, and if you organization has a representation in other jurisdiction and they are being compliant with, they are bound to being compliant with GDPR and other jurisdictional principles, then your job might be very easy. And you are, as of today, if you start a gap assessment as a current state, you might be 70 or 80% compliant, and you need to do certain changes as per the requirements of regulator here. And those are very limited.
And another thing I just wanted to add, the challenges which Mr. Najib is asking. So one of the challenges, the seriousness, the management in most of the organization, they are not taking PDPL compliance at very serious level. So that is one of the biggest challenge, I would say. A part of it, when you are doing the implementation, there is another issue or challenge which normally people are facing, that cooperation from the business processes. So these are the two challenges I would say which most of the organization are going through it or they face in the past.
Maybe I will add another challenge, which is, I mean, the communication with MTCIP, which is the regulator, is in Arabic. You have to have an Arabic resource is to translate what we are doing, and for the communication purpose with the ministry. And actually, our maturity in Oman is still, I mean, we are at the start, and let's say, as the team said, I mean, awareness is still at the beginning, and I mean, management awareness should be raised, and that's why actually the team has formed the PDPO club, so to raise the awareness across, I mean, Oman and the Gulf maybe, or worldwide. So yeah, so we're doing our best, I mean, to make that awareness go up.
Okay.
Yeah, and
So we have
I would
another.
like to yes, Muhammad
Yeah.
Najib, I mean, he's saying what is the responsibility for the DPO held responsible. Actually, it's the organization responsibility. It's not a personal responsibility. That's why we put everything toward compliance with the PDPL. And as I said, I mean, one of the values is that what we call the trust, the digital trust. So we're increasing the digital trust of our data subjects. So if anybody knows that my organization protects my personal data well, I will opt them or prefer them than the others who don't have that. And yeah, he's sharing it. Yeah.
I'll
No,
just
I
add to
agree
this.
with you. Yeah.
Like the primary responsibilities remains with the organization as controller or processor, but the DPO should not be only a name on paper. The DPO should advise, or let's say mainly start with an awareness programs, as you rightly mentioned, sir. Flag risk, support policies, and create policy and document the key decisions. So that's mainly their job, and the major job is like to act as an enabler and to start a communication with the business processes, and just to have an understanding about the business, and from there they can take and create awareness, and they can start mapping, and they can train further teams at downstream level. And the best practice would be, I would say, when we started this call, when we had a conversation with Mustafa sir, like it's really better when if organization has this if they can create a privacy champions for every business team, so that stakeholder, that privacy champion can further lead this privacy function efforts at downstream level in their particular department unit. So that's how we can definitely make ourselves our company compliant.